So you were just saying before I didn't press record that you know what it's like to get a bit of time before you start your ITI presidency globally. And would you mind repeating what you just said there?
For a post like this, and for me with my background in practice, it's just wonderful to have this period to prepare, to learn, you know, and to get up to speed so you can hit the ground running.
Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And have you got kind of big plans? Have you thought about what you want to change? And
I don't know that I necessarily want to change anything. I think this is a fantastic organization as it is.
Yeah.
I have very clear ideas of what I want to continue, and I think as the clinician that comes into this, I'm very, very mindful of the strength and of the ITI in terms of its scientific reputation and its independence and so on. And I must very much protect that and carry that forward.
Okay.
But there's no doubt that we would also like the ITI to grow. And as we grow, we will increasingly be representing clinicians based in practice.
Okay.
Also, perhaps than just a large segment of people in university and with an academic background. And I would really like to see much more linking up between those two groups. If you like, the research and the education side, and how does this translate into us, the clinicians, one of whom I am.
Yeah, I mean, how do you do that? I mean, that's a very difficult thing, isn't it? Because you know, there's different, as you say, you know, you've got the hospital dentists and you've got the clinicians working in general practice like myself doing. Yeah, and how do you think you can reach those people better?
I think we have a phenomenal network. We have the digital means. We as you know, we probably, because you're an ITI member, we have moved very swiftly everything online. So we have a campaign at the moment, ITI at home, and it allows us to move our study clubs, for instance, online in no time at all.
Amazing.
So I think we can use this communication options and tools that we have to enlist much more input from the community, the rank and file of the ITI, and get opinions. So we're also doing something else. We realize that we are so big, so global now, and have so many sections that you can't run this entirely centrally.
Right.
You've got fantastic leadership teams out there in the world, and you've got to go with the local knowledge and with the local understanding of what the needs are, what is of interest, how can we help best. And so we're going to look at a model of devolving as well. That's not just coming from me, mind you. That is coming from the ITI board.
Actually, one of the reasons I wanted to get you on to this podcast is you've pretty much created the bubble that I live in. So you know, one of the things I wanted to do with this podcast is just meet other dentists and other implant dentists and see what their views are and talk about. But, you know, I started with the Foundation in Implant Dentistry with, you know, you as one of the speakers on there. And then you arranged for that to link onto an MSc program, which I joined. And then I kind of kept up my ITI things. And one of the things I'm doing with is trying to play an ambassador role to the young ITI. I mean, I saw you at the Manchester event, so you do turn up to some of the Young ITI events. So what do you think of it as an organisation, or the Young ITI as a little side organisation to the ITI, and what they're trying to do?
I think that the Young ITI is essential. It's something that we would like to see in every single section of the ITI around the world. And actually, I'm very pleased to say that having looked into this, I think every single section does have some form of initiative.
Great. Okay.
I think we also feel it is really important to hand over the initiative. You know, what's going to happen? They hand it over to the Young ITI, because you as an age group, you do go about things in a different way. And you know, at the moment when we're all trying to get used to this digital world, oh boy, do you also realize that things like, I'm ashamed to say, but when I do my Instagram post, I do it so rarely maybe that I have to turn around and find someone who can just say, is that the button that I push? You know, it's just a small example, isn't it? And maybe your approach to practice, what your practicing life is going to be like might also be quite different. I think I could be right that many more will be associates, many more will work for big dental service organizations, and then there's just this fact that many will also be women, and we now also need to look at how we can help you and assist you further, so that we, if you like, almost make a pathway with some key point, some milestones along the way, and you say, yes, if I hit this, if I hit this, if I hit this, then naturally I would go through and become an ITI fellow, and naturally I'll go through to do the next thing you said.
Yeah,
I think that's one of my big, things that I'd like to work on, is this kind of the journey with the ITI.
Yeah, no, it's great for me. It's been a great community as well. So it's kind of introduced me to a whole load of people that I wouldn't have got to meet, and everyone's really open and friendly and happy to talk about anything you want and ask questions. And there's nothing that's too simple. One of the things I like about the Young ITI, and I'm talking to Tamor about this on Friday, is I think it's a really different environment to any other conferences or events that I go to, because it's just, I think everybody's in the same boat, and there's there's no egos, there's no anything else that you expect from, or that you kind of get sometimes from implant related things. It's just a nice environment where you just get to meet a lot of people.
I think that's really nice to hear, and that's very much the ITI that I recognize and that I would like it to be. I think it is a phenomenal network.
And so, do you think there's different challenges to introducing women into the implant field? Do you think they're a little bit more hesitant or gung-ho, less gung-ho than the male colleagues who just think, I'll give that a go?
Yes. In fact, I don't even think it's something I think we know that that's the case. And so that's also why I decided to go along with becoming one of the founder members or core members of the Women Implant Network, the international network that we've set up between ITI and Straumann as well, with them as a sponsor and us as a support. And I think there's no doubt about that. There's simply not the representation of women in this field. And I think you have a very simple equation here. You have 25 million implants placed a year.
Yes.
You have 80% of the dentists who graduate around the world now are women.
Right.
And if we don't engage in this, if we don't become involved and feel comfortable enough around an implant to do a routine assessment, to undertake routine maintenance, or for that matter, deal with minor complications, we're going to have a problem, Yeah.
And so what do you think the key is? I mean, you've alluded to one thing, but I mean, what do you think needs to change to get people more interested in or more comfortable with the idea of with implanting?
I think it's probably a fact. I don't know what you find in your practice, but I would imagine that most dentists now will see an implant on a regular basis. So when you qualify from day one, you do need to have general treatment support skills. You need to feel comfortable enough around that implant to do this routine assessment and maintenance of an implant. And I dare say that what we should strive to do is to get it in at an undergraduate level, if not as a fully fledged discipline, but certainly so that every dentist that graduates will have that knowledge and sufficient skills to undertake those two procedures of assessment and maintenance.
I guess there's one of the tricky things coming to a side point of this is when we talk about assessment of an implant, there is a lot of seem to be different people out there doing different things in the way that they think it's correct or incorrect to assess an implant. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, we have the ITI curriculum program that starts with foundation level, goes on to an intermediate level, and then we're also introducing an advanced level. And at foundation level, it's mostly maybe didactic. You can almost do this online, but we do have a hands-on element, and in that we teach some what we think are these treatment support procedures, and one of them is routine assessment. And what we've chosen to do in that, and we have a demonstration video for that, is, I mean, my own way of doing it, but that is, again, my own way of doing it. But having put the video together, we put it to as we do, to ITI peer review. And we decided, yes, this is what we would put forward. I will stop at the top at the like occlusal point of the restoration, and I would look at what is the occlusion like. Is it conforming to the guidelines that we prescribe for that? Is there any looseness, chipping, fracture, etc.? Is there any issue with the restoration? Otherwise, then you go further down, you look at what is the oral hygiene and how is the patient maintaining it? Is there any inflammation around the implant, in the peri-implant tissues? And if, of course, if there is it then a localized thing? Do you think this is mucositis, or do you think it's peri-implantitis? And then you go on to take a radiograph if you suspect that there is bone loss and you want to confirm that. And I think that's probably a fairly simple, logical, stepwise sequence that everybody should undertake, and probably be able to undertake as quickly as you assess it too.
Right. Yeah. Speaking to Colin Campbell last night, and he was saying, I was saying, what do you recommend for people my age to go out and kind of get the evidence base? And he was recommending one of the consensus statements from the last consensus statements is just, a great place, one-stop shop for everything. Going forwards, I mean, I know we've got consensus statements that will come in the future as well, but is there anything that the ITI can do or does do that kind of allows people to keep up to date with research other than consensus statements? That was one of my thoughts that I wasn't sure of.
Yeah, I think I've heard this referred to, if you like, as living guidelines. Some sort of format of living guidelines, where although you have not yet, I mean, evidence takes a while, doesn't it?
Yes.
You need to get the data, you need to get enough data, you need to be able to compare the data, and you need to then get to the point where you can draw not only consensus statements but also clinical guidelines from it. And I think that it would be lovely if we can find some way where if you and I in practice are presented with some new technique or some new concept of something, and we can turn to the ITI and say, so where are we at with that at the moment?
Yes. For example, the British Society of Perio, one of the things that they'll put out as well is like a summary of research, and it won't be long-term evidence, but it might just be an interesting case study or retrospective stuff or a randomized control study that's come out. So it's not necessarily giving guidelines, but it's just saying here are some of the interesting things that have come around from different publications. But I guess it's difficult for the ITI to do that without it looking like a guidelines.
Yes, I suppose it could be, but that's maybe just a change of culture in a way that if you define it clearly enough and everybody realizes that this is what it is just there. In fact we do have it, because ITI for years and years and years has offered a literature review, a really comprehensive thing where someone has extracted, rather like ADI did at one point with these implant summaries. And ITI has actually been doing that for as long as that, but it's just not necessarily taken up. So it's something that takes someone a long time to do, to come to extract from the literature the most relevant abstracts as one sees it, and and just put them out there. So without any kind of opinion on it, but just say, this is, if you want to keep up to date, this is what we think.
Yes. So if you've got the next couple of months at home, what's your plans then? What do you think you'll do for?
ITI is as big a part of my week as it has been for many years, and that really is a considerable number of hours. I also have a study that I do with University of Geneva. It's going to be my study. It might even, if I'm really lucky, it might become a doctorate, doctor d'Anterre, not a PhD, but which will infinitely improve my credentials for the new post. So I'm working on that. So there's plenty. And then I think I mentioned to you at the very outset, I have also signed up for redeployment. That won't be, I don't think, in dentistry, because I think that is reserved for NHS providers. Not. But let's see if I could find somewhere else where I could be useful as well.
Thanks for doing this, Charlotte. That's very kind of you to give up your time on very short notice.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a great pleasure, and I look forward to hearing not just this podcast, but the other ones as well.
Yeah, well, I'll send them your way.